Hello. It's been a while, but here is my August wrap-up. So I read a total of 17 books for August. I did have a few like light novels, which are like the very short novels that I initially also kind of talked about in the previous month, because I did continue the entire series from last month, or August. So let's get started, shall we? So the first one that I finished is a book that I have decided not to review because of the Latinx people who have expressed their feelings about Taylor Jenkins Reid writing another Latinx person. I receive this from NetGalley and I have read the entire book. So I'm not going to be reviewing it because I feel like my thoughts aren't really going to add anything to the conversation at all. But if you want to learn more about, I mainly saw this on TikTok. I didn't really see anybody here on YouTube actually talk about it. So it's on TikTok and a little bit on Instagram, but mostly on TikTok. Just search Taylor Jenkins Reid, 𝐂𝐟𝐬𝐬 or like Latinx representation. So next one that I finished is The Contract by Melanie Moreland. So this one, as I mentioned in my previous wrap up, I believe, I've been reading light novels, Korean light novels on the Radish app. And for some reason, I forgot like exactly what led me to this book, but I was seeing it and I was like, you know what, let's check it out. Also, like I read a few chapters and eventually, I was really enjoying reading this. So I continued it, I finished it. This is available actually on KU as well. So this is an adult romance. I rated this one at 3.75 stars. Like I said, I really enjoyed this one. This is your typical, grumpy sunshine, billionaire, per girl, boss, secretary romance. It's all of those tropes. And also fake marriage, fake engagement. Fake dating. It started fake dating and then fake engagement and then fake marriage. So it was all of those things. Again, it was really fun. Pretty typical, but very enjoyable. And I actually enjoyed some of like the communication like scenes, moments in this book. So next one is The Villainous Marionette. I finished the first book last month, and then I finished the entire book series this month. So I read all, I believe 100, almost 200 chapters, I want to say, or like 100. No, maybe 150? I'm not 100% sure. This is originally released in 5 different volumes. So I finished all 5 volumes. This is by Yirim. And again, I just love this series. I just love this book. I'm currently reading the manhwa. The manhwa is about maybe a third of the way through the entire story. Yeah, but the thing about light novels is that the only thing I wish with this one is that it was longer, because the nature of light novels usually is that they have like pretty short, straightforward chapters. Like there's still a lot of things going on, but it's essentially like very short in terms of like if you compare it to an actual novel, especially with a lot of the things that are going on. Usually you could like probably make it a little bit longer. I really like the story. I love following the main character. So the main premise of the story is that the main character that we're following is a villainess in a book, and I believe either I get confused because I read a lot of like isekai stories / like turn back time stories, and so it's either the villainess dies in the original, like as they do in the original story, and they get reincarnated with the memories of what will happen in the future, or we're going to be following a main character, usually Korean because it's set in Korea, who has either finished or read parts of the book and they die usually by getting hit by a truck, and they reincarnate as the villainess of the story that they have been reading. Usually it's like that. So I get confused like what really happened. Like, is did she just go back in time, or was she isekai? Isekai is like the term where you get transported into a book, or like a manga or manhwa, something like that. So we're following the main character who was the villainess in the original story, and she has, again, she knows what's gonna happen, and so she decides to, change up. Oh, yeah, no, I believe she was isekai. So I believe was like an office worker of some type. So she wakes up as the villainess of this story, and of course, as usual with isekai stories, she changes the story so that she doesn't die at the end. That's a thing. And I really liked following her because she is not your typical super nice, super sweet girl that gets pushed over. She's very smart, and she's, a little bit morally gray. Like, just a great character to follow. The romance is very cute, so I'll just say that. Also, Villainous Marionette, I would say this is like a upper YA, new adult in terms of like age rating. So did I say what I rated this one? I think I would rate this like a 4.75 5 stars. It's just I enjoy reading this a lot. And then I read Belladonna by Adalyn Grace. This one comes out August 30, and I also requested this one through NetGalley. I believe this is adult, if I'm not mistaken, or like maybe upper YA. Does deal with death a lot. It has an element of immortal that met her as an infant love interest thing, which I'm not a big fan of, obviously, because who would be? I love this one because and I will be saying this with a lot of the books that I've read here, this is very atmospheric. I love it. It's very transportive. It's very dark, very mysterious. Big fan. And I also enjoyed following our main character. And I also really like the twist in the story, like the different reveals that were going on, because we were following a main character who has been orphaned at a very young age, and she has been raised by like different guardians throughout her life because she has a lot of wealth under her name. So a lot of them, quite a few of them, are aiming to eventually get her wealth because they, raised her. But they all, after like taking her in, would die within like the next few years or so. So, she finally meets her, I believe, her uncle. There's a lot of secrets in the house. The house seems to also, she could see ghosts too, like spirits. So there's things in the house and also like in the general like story of the family that is very like suspicious in a way in the family. And she eventually embarks on like trying to solve the mystery of the mother's death and the daughter's health as well. So, and I did, like I said, I enjoy the twists, and because we are uncovering like family secrets and the death of a beloved mother, there are emotional moments in the book which pulled at my heart, which isn't really gonna say a lot of things because I cry very easily. I got very emotional easily myself, but I think it's worth mentioning, something like that. The next light novel that I finished is What It Means to Be You. So this one is 4 novels. So these are counted as 4, and the Villainous Marionette is also counted as another 4 books. That's why it came up to 17. So again, just like the Villainous Marionette, this was unenjoyable, although this is also heartbreaking and frustrating because we're following the main character, Violet. She married Winter essentially to like save her country. She is the former princess of the country, and the royal family had to be dissolved because essentially like her father like put the country in like debt, and to save her country she married this like really wealthy illegitimate son of a duke businessman, Winter. They don't have the best marriage. He is also of Canic descent or origin, which is essentially not white, and so it also has different themes of racism, also heavy themes of suicide because actually attempts to unalive herself but ends up switching bodies with her husband instead. So whenever she would attempt to hurt herself, they would switch bodies. This is filled with a lot of miscommunications, and that's why I know a lot of people found the manhwa hard to read and they dropped it because they didn't like the love interest, the hero, which I almost did, but I listened to like the people who read the novels and read ahead in the story and said that it does get better, and I would agree. There's a lot of healing between the two, and there is like I think a year or 2 of separation between them, which I really enjoyed because a lot of stories like this, usually they wouldn't really have that kind of separation. It was just like the hero, atoning for his sins. But I felt like it is very essential to these kinds of things because they've been married for a few years now. And usually that's the case with other like manhwas and Korean light novels dealing with like divorce and, marriages ending in tragedy or something like that. Time apart, away from each other, I think is very essential in the healing process because you've spent so many years with this other person and trying to either mend the relationship or avoid the relationship, or you're just both together for the few years and it has destroyed your relationship. And so I feel like you lose a sense of yourself when you're in that kind of relationship where you're so entwined with that other person. So separation for me is very essential, and I really like that they did that, especially with Violet being a princess and have this arranged marriage to save the country and essentially like in a way catering to her family and the desires of the royalty and the people, and pushing aside her needs and her wants. So she needs to have that time to herself to like really just discover her own like passion in a way. So I really like that separation. I definitely needed that. And with a lot of misunderstandings, even though it's frustrating to see them fail at communication, I liked seeing it because I'm not expecting them to immediately like be really good at communication just after they kind of have, or they realize that there's a lot of miscommunication, because that's not realistic. So as frustrating as it was, I really did like this one and I really enjoyed it. So yeah, the next one that I finished, I read because I was approved for the arc for the next book. This is a duology, and that is 6 Crimson Cranes and The Dragon's Promise by Elizabeth Lim. 6 Crimson Cranes, I believe this is a Fairloot edition. This is very beautiful. And now I understand why there's 7 of them, because it's supposed to be like it's 6, right? The 6 brothers, but there's 7 on the stencil edges. I understand why there's 7 because there are actually like 7 cranes. There are 6 brothers that are turned into cranes, but there's a presence of another crane. I would rate this first book 4.25, and I would rate the second book 4.5 stars. So again, it's a very overall very enjoyable read. It has a very strong family aspect, family theme to it, and the duology follows essentially like the main character as she strives to save her kingdom and her family, but it's also a coming of age set in a fantasy world, and it has a like really whimsical feel to it, which I absolutely love, but also very dark moments actually that I didn't expect, and we see much more of it eventually as the book progresses and as we get to the second book as well. So again, it was a lot of fun to read this one. I actually have very good memories of reading this one, and I would just like recall some of the beautiful moments that are present in this book and the other book. So really enjoyed this. 6 Crimson Cranes. I still need to read her first duology. I was planning on reading that first before this one, but I received the arc, so I had to read this one. And then another arc. Oh, this one came out August 30th, Dragon's Promise. And then the next one that I read is another arc. This is Secrets So Deep by Jenny Meyer Sain. This one will come out on September 27th, and I rated this one a 4.25 stars again because the next few books are going to be September releases, so you know, fall season. All of them are going to be very atmospheric, which I love. So this one, of course, another atmospheric spooky read. It has gothic themes as well, and it features an unreliable narrator and an unreliable setting. There are a lot of murky details that normally for me would take away from the book because, you know, it's confusing. I don't understand it. I don't like it. But to me, it only added to the vibes of the book, the feeling of the book. That feeling of there are a lot of secrets that are hidden. So the title is like also perfect. So I really enjoyed the vibes of it. And of course the secrets that are to be uncovered, and the people that you meet obviously have their secrets, but you don't fully know what it is. And you know, I love the slow uncovering of it. So the thrill mystery aspect of it I really enjoyed. So 4.25 stars. And the setting is also, like I said, it's unreliable because it feels like it's also like it's one of those moments where it feels like it's alive, kind of like it, because it's set in an island, I believe, something like that, or like a remote place. So there's a lot of like creepy, weird things going on, you know, that you're not sure if it's really happening or if it's a hallucination of some sort, which I love. I love when those are like done really well. So next one that is finished is Spotsworth Forgetting by Adrienne Young. This one also comes out September 27th. Another one that is atmospheric. I think this is the last one that is atmospheric. So, you know, a lot of the books that I read for this month are very atmospheric, which I enjoy because I love atmospheric books. After reading this one, and while reading it, it felt nostalgic in a way, and I couldn't really put my mind into it until yesterday as I was preparing to make this video, to make these reviews, that I realized why it felt familiar, why it felt nostalgic is because it reminds me a lot of Love in Other Words. Now, granted, Love in Other Words is an adult contemporary. It doesn't have any hint of magic in it, and this one is fantasy. Or like, you know, magical realism. If Love in Other Words is like a mystery thriller with a fantastical element, it would be this one. And as you know, I love Love in Other Words. Absolutely love this one as well. So yeah, it might be like a weird thing, but if you love Love in Other Words, you might really like this one. I'm just saying, maybe you agree, maybe you won't, but I really like this because it has a lot of the same elements. But again, if Love in Other Words was a mystery thriller with fantastical elements, it would be Spotsworth Forgetting. That's all I'm gonna say. And I still love this one. Did I mention what I rated this? 4.75 stars. Okay, next one is A Scatter of Light by Malinda Lo. This one I rated 5 stars. This one comes out October 4th. This is the type of story that sticks with you, much like Malinda Lo's previous book, Last Night at the Telegraph Club. So it's really hard to put into words how I feel for this book, because this book took my heart and just poured like all like these different emotions. It left me bereft in a way, but also full. It's so complicated, but I love this book. 5 stars. Did I mention that already? I'm gonna repeat it again. 5 stars. So, you know, it made me feel sad, it made me feel worried, it made me feel tension. But all throughout, there's like this thread, this hint, or this wish of hope that kept me going. Tentative kind of hope where it keeps getting like taken away, but also like given back, but also taken away and given back. It's the kind of thing. It's like you see glimpses of hope and I just want the best for these characters. Yeah, so yeah, I love this book so much. Yeah, I definitely will be getting myself a physical copy of this because I love this book so much. So please read it. Please read it. I want to hold it in my hand, just give it a hug because yeah. Anyway, the last book that I read for August is Twisted Lies by Anna Huang. Finally, this one came out June, I believe. It took a while for the actual book to get to me because this is a signed copy. So it finally got shipped in August. I received it like middle of August, I believe, and I finally got to reading it. I actually took this with me when we went to Las Vegas over the weekend. So I finished it there. Like I finished like half in the airplane, and because it was a busy weekend, I finished the other half on the way back in the airplane as well. So I love this one so much. I knew that I was going to love this, and this is almost a 600 page book. This is 560 pages, 559, something like that. And it didn't feel like it because it was very fast to read, very quick to read. And like, this is the kind of book that you just devour. And that's exactly what I did. And I had a feeling that this was going to be like my favorite in the series, and I was right. I love this one so much. I love this series as a whole, obviously, but this is like my favorite. Stella X Christian. And also, I cannot believe that the next like companion series for this one is already coming out in October. It's September, right? I finished this end of August. People are already reading an arc of Kings of Wrath, and we already had like seen a glimpse of the characters that we're gonna follow here, and I'm already like hyped for it. I'm already really excited just like reading about them, like seeing them here, because I knew it was going to be them. And I cannot wait. I can't wait. I'm so thankful that Anna Huang is able to write that fast because it's the best. I think like Twisted Hate came out earlier this year, February, right? Or something like that. And then Twisted Lies comes out 6 months later. And now Kings of Wrath comes out like maybe 3 months later. I'm so glad she can write that fast. And it's like, I love this one so much. And Anna Huang is definitely one of my favorite authors now because all her books I just devour. So I can't wait for Kings of Wrath. There isn't any like releases yet for like the cover, so I believe that's going to happen in October because it is coming out October, I think mid-October. Not 100% sure, but yes. So those are all the books that I read for August. I had a really good reading month. So far, September I think it's pretty good. I think I'm gonna have another like really good reading month. I don't know how many books I'm gonna read, but you know, I'm getting back into the groove of things. So I'm really glad about that. So yeah, that is it for this video. I hope you guys enjoyed. Let me know how your reading for August went. Is that right? Yeah, August went. And I will see you on the next one.